Welcome back to the MOC course on research writing. My name is Aradhana Malik and I'm helping you with this course. And we have finished the discussion on how you write and what sections to put in and everything. In this class, we are going to discuss something very interesting. And you've got your research under control, you have submitted various sections, you've come up with your results. In all probability, you will have written bits and pieces of your dissertation and kept them ready to be strung together. Now, writing a dissertation or a research paper is not as painful, but a dissertation is quite difficult. When you write a research document, many times after doing all that work and analysis, you suddenly are at a loss for words. You don't know what is going on with you. You don't know, you just do not want to look at another text anymore. You don't want to look at any document anymore. And that is called a writer's block. Now, in this lecture, we are going to talk about or discuss what writer's blocks are and how do you deal with them. So, let's see what we have for you here. Writer's block. This is exactly how you feel. You hold your head in your hands like that and you say, where am I going? What have I done? How will I compress all of this work into 8,000 words, 10,000 words? The approximate limit for an article in the social sciences or in management sciences prescribed by various journals is between 7 to 10,000 words, including your references and tables. Now, how do you compress several months or a year or two of work into 10,000 words, and they count everything? Okay, so it becomes very difficult and you just hold your head in your hand like this and you say, how am I going to do it? What is going on? And we all feel frustrated. How do you deal with this? And that is what we will talk about in this class. Okay. Now, before we move on to writer's blocks, we will discuss some writer's traps. This is from a book by a gentleman called Andrei Kukla. The book is called Mental Traps. I don't have it here with me, but you can find it. I'm sure you can find it in reputed bookstores. So, I thought the same thing applied to our lives as writers. Now, some writer's traps that you might face are, number one is persistence. Many of us are perfectionists. We want everything we do to be crisp and clear and perfect and absolutely right. So, we end up working on projects that have lost their value. In an effort to keep improving things, we keep on working on projects that are no longer significant. You applied for a project, you got the project, you worked on it, you have submitted your report, you are writing a publication. So, the value that is going to come, or you are writing a summary of, or you are compressing your report into a publishable article. The value of whatever you have or whatever you want to present is no longer there. So, that becomes a problem. We say, no, it's still not perfect, it's still not perfect. Maybe you publish 2 papers, 3 papers out of a project that you have done. And after that, the incremental value, any additional value of whatever you do becomes so low that, yes, you have published it, the world knows that you did this. So, you are just adding very, very little bit of information every time you work very, very hard. So, the value is lost. It's there, but it has come down significantly, and that becomes a problem for you. You say, how do I make it as perfect as the first publication or the first article that I wrote based on this work? How do you deal with that? This is different from perseverance, which is the ability to steadfastly pursue your aim despite the obstacles along the way. Okay. The other roadblock or the trap that we come across is amplification. What is amplification? Again, a big major problem with perfectionists. And this is really related to, this is something that you will find when you are in a place like IIT. Everybody is an expert at their jobs, and because we are working so hard, we tend to work harder than necessary to achieve our aim. We think everything, the heaven is going to come crashing down if something, of course you must make it as perfect as possible, but you have to keep other limitations in mind also. There is a time limit within which you have to submit your work. There is a financial limit, there is a limit on your energy. You may have the time, you may have the money to do your research, to get material, but your body may not be strong enough to take on that extra load. You may need to sit in one place for maybe 10-12 hours a day or maybe 20 hours a day, and you are not able to do that. You are not able to handle that pressure physically. Should you do it? Should you not? So you work much harder than necessary to achieve your aim. Now in this studio you can't see it, but I have a brilliant student from IIT sitting here as my TA, and I'm sure he can relate to what I'm saying. We bang our heads against the wall. The team here, the NPTEL team, works so hard. The video recording team works so hard. They try and remove every tiny flaw in whatever they do. So in the end, the value is, of course, the value is significant. That is why we are IIT. However, when we write papers, when we are sending papers, occasionally, I'm not saying compromise on the quality. That is not what I'm saying. Please don't misinterpret it as that. However, we tend to work much harder than is necessary. If we just planned out our work well and we removed the kinks from our work, maybe the output would be just the same. But we want to go into detail, we want to do everything. I'll just give you an example from my own work. When I was making the examination for your final examination, what I did was I went through the slides meticulously. I've already made it. I went through the slides meticulously. I made a question bank. I made sure that the questions were comparable to each other. In your exam is going to be held on 2 dates, so there has to be equal weightage. So the questions need to be of similar difficulty level. So I did that. Then I color coded the questions. Then I split them into 2 parts. Then I cross checked to make sure that everything was really what I had discussed. And then I formatted it according to the formatting prescribed by the NPTEL authorities, and then I put it into 2 separate documents, and then I sent an email. So on my at my workstation, if anyone were to come and see, there would be 5 or 6 versions of each question paper. Was that required? Maybe, maybe not. But I want to make sure that no student here is disadvantaged. And that is why I did it. And then I also needed to make sure that the relationship was there with the assignment. So I've made several things all together. So there's a whole bunch of documents. It's not random questions. So that is what we mean by amplification. The end you're working towards remains valuable, but your work does not advance you towards it. That is the impact of amplification. If you worked slightly less hard, maybe you would reach the same goal. But you want to satisfy yourself. That's what we hear a lot of IIT students say. A lot of IIT faculty also say, I'm not doing anything to please anyone other than myself. I need to be able to live with myself. So I'm a perfectionist for myself, not for anyone else. Caution: determine the optimal quality of data and quality of presentation with the help of your supervisor. You may want to include everything possible, but your supervisor would have a practical knowledge of how much to put in and how to put in and how to deal with it. Okay, and vertical amplification is termed as accumulation, which means, or accumulation of data is termed as vertical amplification, which means you want to keep adding more data. Now the incremental value of adding more data to what you've already done is very, very minuscule. But you say, okay, maybe if I had, I already have 500 responses, maybe if I had 1,000, it would make a difference. But you've got significant results as it is with 500. Taking the number up to 1,000 responses is not going to make much of a difference to your results. Your supervisor would be able to tell you that. So that is what is meant by this. Repetition is horizontal amplification. You keep revising your document for more perfection. I know in a previous lecture I have mentioned that your document must go through at least 40 to 50 revisions. Now that is the average. And if you ask others, there may be many others who may say that documents don't need to be revised so much. I am kind of a perfectionist, so I don't want to submit a shoddy piece of work. Okay, but then again, that really, I am as guilty of this as any of you may be. We want to keep working hard and we want to keep revising and revising things till they are perfect. So that is another form of amplification. Okay, fixation. Your progress towards your result is blocked. You get fixated. You do not start working on your next section till your supervisor does not totally approve your first section. So while your supervisor is revising your submission, you waste your time waiting for the result. I will not do the second part, or I will not proceed with whatever I have done till you give me your feedback. And once the supervisor gives you feedback, you say, what nonsense, I knew this already. But you don't want to move ahead. No, I will not move till I have your approval. So you get fixated on getting a section of your paper approved before you take it forward. Reversion. You tried, you failed, the game is over. You still go back and try to fix something that can never be fixed. So you tried, you wrote a paper, you submitted it to 10 journals, 15 journals, and everybody said that your contribution is not that significant, your data is obsolete. You don't get more data, but you keep revising it. And you say maybe, they give you a whole bunch of other suggestions also, refer to this paper, refer to that paper. But all of them say that we are not able to see what contribution you're making to the knowledge base. So you get stuck and you keep going back and you say, what can I do to make this better? You will never get that paper published. Unless you change the outcome of that paper, you will not be able to get it published. But you keep going back and trying to fix it. That is called reversion. And that paper is no longer valid. Maybe you're talking about a technology that nobody wants to know more about. Why? Because more advanced technologies have come in. You want to talk about how to improve the old, physical typewriter on which you had to bang your fingers. You've studied historically, yes, it's important. What typewriters were, how they came to be, how the keys were made, what kind of ink was made, how were those ribbons made. So you keep trying to work on that. The technology has changed. You're still trying to figure out, nobody is going to use that technology, but you still keep trying to figure out how to improve the quality of that in the hope that the same material will be used by some other technology sometime in the future. Okay, people say this is no longer valid, whatever you're talking about is obsolete. Stop. But you keep going back. Anticipation. You start too soon, you overwork, you put in more effort than necessary. The antecedent conditions, then you pre-work. You think that you need to do something. You work more than necessary right in the beginning, even before the project has begun. You get everything in gear, and by the time the project starts, you're already out of energy. Okay? You might work in vain. Benefits are lost before the goal is attained. Resistance. Your inability to change your course of action. That is called resistance. Procrastination. You have a tendency to keep putting off till tomorrow what you can do today. Okay, the paper is due next weekend, maybe I'll start working on it tomorrow. No, today I'm not able to do it. Maybe I'll start working on it day after tomorrow. No, I'm not able to do it today. Maybe I'll start working on it next Monday. And in doing so, you keep letting other things take precedence and you keep pushing it, and at the last minute, you sit like this and you say, okay, what do I do now? Division. You try to attend to more than one task at a time with the same amount of commitment and focus. Okay? So, multitasking. Acceleration. You work at a pace faster than normal. I want results today, I want results now. Type A personalities. So, I'll keep, I have to submit this document by tonight. Yes, having deadlines is good, but is rushing through deadlines good? I don't know. Occasionally, the deadlines may be flexible also. Why do you come across these roadblocks, or why do you have these mental traps? This is from a website called sff.net. Excessive self-criticism and perfectionism. I told you, perfectionists have this habit. writing what you should instead of what you enjoy. So we are under pressure. I have to do it, I have to submit a paper. My student is nodding his head because occasionally he's had to do things in class. So, writing what you should, I have to write this paper. And then in having to write it, you either rush through it or you put in more effort and you say, even though I'm not interested in it, because I have to submit it and I'm a perfectionist and I'm an A grader and I'm an 8 point or 9 point CGPA holder, so I have to maintain that standard, so I just start doing it, and we get into these traps, and then they lead to a roadblock, and at the end of which we sit like this and we say, I can't do it anymore, enough, done. Obsessing on one piece or story too hard. I have to make this the most perfect piece ever. That is what I'm trying to do in this lecture today. Since this is one of the last lectures, I'm trying to make it as interesting and as appealing to you, the audience, as possible. So I worked really hard at this. Some of it is material I've used before, some of it is new. Expectations, fantasy and reality. You feel that, by working so hard, you'll produce the best paper of your life, the best project of your life. Reality is, it's the start of many such projects. Somewhere along the line, you will be able to do the best work of your life. But I know so many people who have been gold medalists, who have been toppers, who have started their lives, and who at a very late stage, maybe 25, 30 years of publishing and sending papers, and maybe after 200, 250 papers, they finally come out with something that changes the course of their lives. But by then they are old and graying like me, and finally then they feel that yes, all these years of work have paid off and everything that they have published is a masterpiece. But somewhere along the line, somewhere towards the middle of their careers, they write something that really hits the nail on its head. So it's the right piece of information, right piece of knowledge that is generated at the right time and is communicated to the right genre of journals. And the journal accepts it and says, aha, this is what we've been looking for ages. So they change occasionally, very rarely you will find that journals change the cover page of their issue because of a specific research paper that has been written. So your expectations, you say you want every paper of yours to be at that level. And in having those expectations from yourself, you get into these traps and eventually hit a writer's block. Oh, losing faith in the process. You revise, your guide says what is new. You revise, your guide says this is wrong, fix it. You revise, you send it to your guide, guide says something is not right. You both come to a common mutual understanding after 10, 12, 15, 20 revisions, and then you send it to a journal and outright rejection. Send it again, outright rejection. Send it again, outright rejection. What do? I am not going to do it. Okay. Inability to find any information on the topic. Maybe you're looking in the wrong place. Maybe you're looking, at the wrong time. Maybe you're using keywords that you shouldn't be using. So inability to find information on the topic also leads to a block, at which point you say you try very hard and you're not able to find the information. Stress and panic, a vicious cycle. So you get stressed out and you panic, and you get stressed out and you panic, and so you are worried and then you panic and you do things that you shouldn't be doing, and that becomes a vicious cycle. You've attempted to begin a document without doing any preliminary work such as brainstorming or outlining. Okay, so this is one of the blocks that you face. What should you do? You attempt to begin a document without doing your homework. How should you address this roadblock? Some possible cures for this block are: use invention strategies. You will find these on become creative. We've discussed creativity in writing in the earlier parts of this course. Write down all the primary ideas you would like to express and then fill in each with the smaller ideas that make up each primary idea. This can easily be converted into an outline later, but just generate ideas, put them on a piece of paper, write, express yourself, and then go back and see, go through it again. So, and then organize your thoughts. Another roadblock that you could hit, or writer's block that you could hit, could be you've chosen or been assigned a topic which bores you. Part of a class, you have to write a paper, you've been assigned a topic, teachers split up the topic into say 20 different topics, you've got a topic that you're not interested in, and you say, what do I write? How do I write? Oh my God. Some possible cures: choose a particular aspect of the topic you're interested in, if the writing situation will allow it. That is, if the goal of your writing can be adjusted and is not given to you specifically, or if the teacher or project coordinator will allow it, you start from the middle somewhere. Talk to your supervisor about how you can personalize the topic to make it more interesting. Find out more avenues. Look for something interesting. Look for something new. Look for something creative. Try and get creative with whatever you are doing. You don't want to spend time writing, or you don't understand the assignment and are scared to admit it. This is too difficult for me, but I'm a perfectionist. I'm an IIT student. I will take up the challenge. I will do it. I'm an IIT faculty. I've taken on this very difficult course. I'm going to do it. Okay. So, that then becomes a problem for you. Okay. Then you are like, okay, it's too difficult. I want to find information, but then you hit a roadblock. You take on the assignment and then you don't know what to do with it. Possible cures: resign yourself to the fact that you have to write. You've taken it on, you have to do it. There is no way around it. Find out what is expected of you. Consult a teacher, textbook, student, tutor, project coordinator, etc. Look at some of the strategies for writing anxiety mentioned on the following slides. Again, I will share this with you. These are all from the Purdue Online Writing Lab. You're anxious about writing the paper. Some possible cures for this are: you focus your energy by rehearsing the task in your head. Consciously stop the non-productive comments running through your head by replacing them with productive ones. If you have some rituals for writing success, chewing gum, listening to music, exercise, etc., use them. Now I'll share something very personal with you. What happened was, when I was doing my comprehensive examinations for my PhD program, I took one particular song and I listened to that song non-stop. That was always playing in the background. Whenever I'm doing something very serious, I have a tendency to get stuck on a particular form of music. Okay, so this is a ritual. I like to keep having lots of water. I tend to eat a lot when I'm stressed out and writing things. So we all have our rituals. I know of some people who prefer to chew gum when they're writing. Unfortunately, some of you may also be burning your lungs. My advice is, please don't do it. It's bad for you. But when you're really stressed and in the middle of something, you tend to ingest tobacco fumes, which are very, very bad for you. So please don't do it. Some people like to exercise. After every section, they go for a run. Okay, so that if you have these rituals that help stimulate your gray cells, then by all means use them. You're so stressed out, you can't seem to put a word on the page. What do? Stretch. Again, please focus. This is what you do. Stretch out your arms, squish your fingers into your palm, release them, open out your arms, stretch, stand up. I can't show that to you. They'll probably have trouble focusing here. So just stretch yourself, stretch your body, move your limbs, move your neck like this. I have spondylitis, so it's a little difficult for me. But then move your neck. Again, please consult your doctor before you do any of this. Otherwise, I am not responsible for you. I am not a doctor. I am just saying, do whatever it takes to relax different muscles in your body. Okay, but with your neck, please check with your doctor before you do what I just did. So stretch as many muscle groups as possible while staying seated if you have trouble getting up. If you're in the middle of an examination, you're writing an essay, even then, I don't think anyone would mind you putting down your pen and doing this really tight and opening out your hands like this. Again, depending on your medical condition, please check with your doctor before you take any of my suggestions. Try tensing and releasing various muscle groups, starting from your toes. Tense up perhaps for 5 to 10 seconds and then let go. Relax and then go on to another muscle group. Now this is an exercise that I can show you in person, but it's out of the scope of this class, so I can't really show this to you. Very helpful. Breathe deeply. Close your eyes. This is what you do. Close your eyes. Hold your breath for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Relaxes you. Okay, and then let it out slowly. Okay, so various methods. Again, I am not a yoga teacher, I am just telling you some strategies to relax yourself, to ease the stress that prevents you from writing. Use a calming word or mental image to focus on while relaxing. I'll tell you what I do. I like to watch videos of baby animals to relax. I've mentioned this in class with you all also. So I'm talking to my student here, which is sort of, it gives you an idea of what a classroom situation looks like. That's my relaxation technique when I'm really stressed out and worried. I like to go to YouTube and you'll find a lot of, videos of baby animals, baby mammals specifically, because they're so expressive and affectionate and they're attached to their families. So I like to watch those videos to relax. So that is something that works for me. But you cannot tell yourself, oh, you've realized you're stressed. You can't just tell your brain, hey brain, calm down. Hey brain, relax. You can't do that. You have to do something that relaxes you, some activity that relaxes you. Call up friends. Call up people who are not expecting anything from you, who love you just the way you are. Maybe that is a strategy that will work for you. But find a way to relax. Okay? And then get back to your work and your work will be easier. You're self-conscious about your writing, you may have trouble getting started. So if you're preoccupied with the idea that you have to write about a subject and feel you probably won't express yourself well, that may be a block. Some cures: talk over the subject with a friend or superior. I'll tell you what I used to do or what I still do. I'll just call up a family member. It used to be my mother. I just call up somebody and I will discuss, and they'll ask, okay, what are you doing? How is it going? And I just talk to them. I'll call up some friend sitting in some corner of the world who has no idea about my research, who just wants to have a conversation, and I'll tell them, you know what, this is what I discovered as a result of my study. So I will start talking in a language that they understand. Now, I'm not saying that, it's not about what kind of work they do or whether they are professors or not. It's about trying to explain whatever you have done or whatever you're trying to do or whatever you're trying to write to a person who may not have the necessary training and background in the subject that you're talking about. So you need to simplify things in your mind and you need to explain them in as comprehensible a manner as possible, maybe in your mother tongue. And that in turn clarifies a lot of doubts in your mind. When you speak something, that clarifies a lot of doubts in your mind. That is what I did during my PhD days. My mother would ask me, and I tried to explain things to her. She was not trained in the area that I was doing my research in. So I would just call up and I would say, this is what I'm doing, and I would explain everything to her in terms that she could relate to. And that, while talking to her, I was able to clarify a lot of doubts in my mind. So that helps. Or maybe if you want to get more ideas and insights, maybe you can talk to somebody who does understand, but who is not actively involved in your work. So they will be able to see things from a different angle. Assure yourself that the first draft doesn't have to be a work of genius. It is something to work with. First draft is just a document on which you pour your heart out. The first draft is not the most perfect draft. It is not the final draft. It is not the draft that will become your final paper. The first draft is just an avenue for you to pour your heart out. Read it, find out if you missed anything. Don't count the number of words, don't look at the language. Let it be a mixture of your mother tongue and English or whatever combination of languages you want to use. Just pour your heart out on the first draft on paper. Make sure you have covered all ground. Second draft, go through it and write it in a language that is acceptable for publication. And slowly after, say maybe on the 10th draft, you can start looking at some grammatical mistakes you may have made. But till that point, don't bother. Just make sure you put in everything. The different sections of your paper are tying in well with each other. Make sure you have covered everything. Make sure you have highlighted the significant points and removed the points that are not so significant, etc. So you start working with finesse only around, say, maybe the 15th or the 20th draft. But till then, don't worry about it. And then, of course, in the last 10, 12 drafts, you have to cut down on the number of words, or you may have to add words if you're not very verbose. Okay, but till that point, just pour your heart out. Okay. Force yourself to write down something, however poorly worded, that approximates your thought, and go on with the next idea. This is what you should do. Break the task up into steps. Meet the general purpose first and then flesh out more specific aspects later. Since good journals ask you what your contribution is, what should you do? You should first clarify that. Write down your contribution as a result of your study to begin with. And when you write that down and when that is clear, then you tie in. You've already done the work. And whatever you have come out with is very beautiful, and you have to really situate it in the context. So you can start connecting it to past literature. You can start working backwards if that works for you. Don't start with literature review. Start with the outcome. Start with the contribution. You already have your notes. But when you start writing, maybe you can write up that part well. My contribution is this. Maybe it is the conclusion section. So what? And try one of the strategies on the next slide. Now we come to the nuts and bolts. Strategies for dealing with writer's block. Begin in the middle. Don't start at the beginning. Don't start at the end. Begin somewhere in the middle. Procedures are methods section is very easy to write. I did this, I did that, this is the sample. So that is very definite. That will not change. Be clear, crisp. So you have that section done. You've got your notes on methodology. So write the method section and then maybe move on to how you selected the particular method. You have, we all have computers. You're watching this on a computer, so you can always do it. So you begin in the middle. Talk out the paper. After you write a section, maybe talk about it to yourself, video record it, audio record it, listen to it, hear yourself speaking, try and make a presentation on it, listen to yourself speak, that helps. Audio record your ideas about the paper. Change the audience temporarily, like I told you. Talk to somebody who has no training in or interest in whatever you're doing. Play the role of a reader. Try and read your paper from as critical a standpoint as possible. Try and read your paper from the point of view of a person who is out to throw you out. Try and read the paper from the point of view of a person who is hell-bent on finding mistakes, who is bent upon finding mistakes in your paper and who is out to get you, and make down all kinds of notes. If you were the editor of a journal who was definite about not accepting a paper from this person, what kinds of comments would you make? But you could not take out, you could not take out your angst personally. What would you write down? Okay, and that is all we have time for in this lecture, and that really winds up how you write. We will continue with a little bit more discussion on research writing in the next class, and then we will wrap up the course. Thank you very much for listening.